So that's pretty much it, going over kind of just a recap on the last training. So I want to cover some questions, and right now is a good time to hit me with the absolute best objections that you guys have, and I'll share with you what I've found works, not only from top producers here on the floor, but from those who I've been mentored and taught the same. I was also the one coming in super early or waking up super early to study my craft, just like you guys. So I appreciate you guys for being here and caring about yourselves that much to where you're here a couple hours earlier than you need to define your skill, you know? So I'm going to share with you guys some of that experience, but just let me know what questions you guys have.
One of the major rebuttals that I've gotten recently is the soul lock, and I think honestly, I was emailing you about it. I burned every single one of those leads. I can't get past like the ones like, I mean, I've converted like a couple to, okay, well, you know, consider taking cash out where you don't have to make 2 different payments on 2 separate interest rates. But like the ones that are like, oh hell no, I'm not touching my first. I have a 3.25. I literally just need this, and then, you know, I don't even need it. Like this, I just want to heal up. Like, what are some ways like around that to where like something I can offer them?
Got it. So you can actually make that into a positive. And so, just in case you guys don't understand what he's talking about, are the lending tree leads, where they call in asking for an equity line of credit, and then we immediately, you know, sometimes think, oh, TCF, what a fucking pain, right? It's more paperwork, blah blah blah. But the motive there is, number one is a lot of those people who are applying for HELOCs are below 700. So number one, they don't even qualify for an equity line of credit, but we don't tell that right up front, right? You don't say, hey, how you doing? This is Daniel. Oh, by the way, you got a shitty FICO. You can't get this program, but I can show you how to get cash out. How's that sound? What's your goal? You know what I mean? You just kind of hit them right from the beginning and just, anyway, you have to, again, use the approach of, you know, when they say, hey, Daniel, I'm looking for an equity line of credit to pay off some debt. I don't want to touch my first. I got 3.25. What's the response? Perfect. I can help you, right? They love to hear that. So perfect. I can help you. May I ask the balance on your first, and then go into the application. You know, and that's, again, if you ask them what their goal is, because if you look at the lead source, you'll kind of get an idea of what their goal is, right? There's a lending tree is majority of them are HELOCs. They'll even say HELOC on there. It'll even give you a little pop-up and say, hey, this guy's approaching for a HELOC, you know, start talking about cash out on the first mortgage. And so it's giving you the tools, but I think that because it happens up front, we're so cautious of, how am I going to change this conversation to a cash out refinance? We're sweating it too much up front. And where that script comes in effect with this lending tree lead is that it gives you control. And so you can figure out the nuts and bolts as to what they want to accomplish, and then you can determine whether or not it's worth your time to move forward. So for example, if you got that call that's at, you know, 2.5, 30-year fix, and this guy needs an equity line of credit, I'm gonna say, perfect, I can help you. Just out of curiosity, what were you gonna do with the money? I'm gonna pay off debt, or I'm gonna fix my house, or I'm gonna do this property, or I'm gonna do some improvements. Then I'd ask, okay, how much cash do you need? You know, what's the line of credit you need? And they might say 10,000. Then I'm going to approach it a little bit different, because, you know, it's gonna be a hard sale, 10 grand, then I'm, you know, cash out, whatever. So then I'm going to start asking other questions to increase that 10,000. Questions like, let's say if they needed the cash to pull debt consolidation, I'm gonna ask, okay, perfect. If an appraiser came out there today, what do you think the condition of your house is on a scale of 1 through 10, 10 being best? And they'll answer you appropriately. They'll say, I think it's gonna be about a 7. Got it. What do you think you could do to the house to make it a 10? And then they'll start telling you, I could do a repaint, I can get new siding, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. Got it. Do you have any idea how much that would be? It's probably gonna be about 20,000. Now I just turned my 10,000 to 30, and I'm able to justify it, because now they're gonna be living in a 10. And it's all gonna be based on what they want to do. Does that make sense? I'm not telling them what they have to do. And so that's a strategy. Now on the flip side, if we find out that this person needs 50 grand or a substantial amount, and they still have 2.5 or 3.5 fixed on a 30, and they keep telling you, I don't want to touch that, you know, just leave that alone, leave that separate. Then we have to engineer our script in a way where we start downplaying, you know, the adjustable rate mortgage, or you start hinting on the fact that the T-bill rate is increasing, and you're planting these seeds through the conversation to hit them at the end. So I'm not saying that, you know, right during the first call, I'm not going to say, hey, you don't want an equity line of credit, because they're adjustable rates and the market rates are going up. You don't want to hit them with that yet. You want to hit them with it on the second call, on the pitch call, and you're going to hit them with it and say, hey, you know what, I came across some information, I want to run it by you real quick and get your feedback on this. And that should be the way, at least in my opinion, you should start every single pitch. Because if you're starting a pitch like, hey, Sam and Julie, I have the information ready. Are you in front of your computer? Let's cover the details. I'm gonna go over the estimate with you right now. If you say that right now, you're putting your prospects on guard. You're putting them in defense mode, right? Where they're not gonna tell you what you need to hear. They're not gonna give you a yes. They're not gonna comply as much as you would want them to. So if you just simply word it a different way and give them a call, it could be the exact time of the appointment. But just open it up like this and say, hey, Daniel, I got some solutions for you for our meeting, but I came across something and I want to run it by you real quick. I need to get your feedback. Just presenting it that way puts them off guard, and they're not on guard, if that makes sense. They're more or less tuned in, right? They're like, yeah, what's up? What do you got? Because they're not expecting the pitch. And so when your feedback turns out to be the pitch and it's the option and saying, hey, you know what? I was going over that option with the equity line of credit. I understand that you want to touch this interest rate, but the information I came across was actually beneficial to you because A, B, and C. Now, A, B, and C can be, you don't want a $50,000 credit card against your house because it compounds interest on a daily basis. Also, I know you want to protect this 3.5, but I looked at your credit report and noticed that you refinance every 18 months. I also discovered in our first call that you don't plan to own this house for longer than 3 years or 5 years. Right? So it's all about the questions you ask and how you plant the seeds in the first call that's going to help you overcome whether or not they want an equity line of credit. But it's that script that you use at the very beginning that's going to determine if you should even take that call that far to begin with. Because if this guy wants an equity line for 10 grand or 5 grand, then fucking cut tie, right? Cut tie or get somewhat of kind of like a trial close going on and say, okay, cool. So if I got you an equity line of credit right now for 10 grand, or whatever, I would strongly recommend that you avoid equity lines of credit. And what I meant by you could turn this into a good thing is that if it turns out that they're better off not doing an equity line or not doing a refinance, tell them and say, you know what, to be honest with you, Mac, being at 2.5, a $10,000 equity line of credit, I can offer an equity line of credit, but it's courtesy. I have to do your first mortgage also. And to be honest with you, you can probably get it better at a credit union. Or, to be honest with you, you could probably achieve your $10,000 this way and you don't have to have a credit card against your house. And you're being honest with them for one reason is because you're going to now network with this person, right? And so at the very end, after you give them some whole sounding advice, some real good advice, and you let them know that you were not concerned about ripping that business right away, you were actually giving them right direction, you followed up with, fortunately, I was able to discover this before you spent 6 weeks of your life down a path that you didn't want to go, before you spent $500 on an appraisal that just wouldn't suffice, and more importantly, the headache of finding out that you just spent 6 weeks just to get declined. And so, fortunately, I was able to help you avoid that. And I really owe that based on my experience and the integrity of New American Funding. Now, if you know of anyone else who would need this protection and this professional opinion before they venture down a road where they can waste money or waste time, I just emailed you my contact information. Please forward it to them. I can do the same exact thing for them. Now, if you have any questions regarding your income, your credit, your property profile, I'm still going to keep in touch with you. I'll check in with you in about 6 months. I'll let you know where your property value is, and if there's something that we can do to help improve your term, we'll do it then. Does that make sense? And so now you're not leaving on a bad note, right? You're actually getting an opportunity to network, and they'll appreciate that. They'll genuinely share it. Like, yo, yeah, you know what? My niece was thinking about refinancing. Call her. I want to protect her. I want to make sure she's not wasting money. I want to make sure she's protected. People will naturally want to defend those that they like. And so if you can use that to your advantage, definitely use it. Cool? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that make sense to everyone on the lending tree leads, the cash out leads? Yeah? All right. Any other questions? How about emotion? Motion is definitely something that's relevant right now because whether you've been in sales for a long time or you've been in this industry for a long time, last year you had this insane momentum, right? You were able to be shitty at your job and earn 10, 15 grand a month. That's how good it was last year. And so now going into this year, even at your most skilled, it's almost difficult to earn 10, 15. But the issue is all last year and the year before, we become adapted to this amount of income. And so our living and our expenses have adapted to that income. And so now emotion plays a role because now we're coming in an area where the income's changed, but our habits and our bills have not. And so all of this stress, because there's two momentums, right? You have a negative momentum and positive momentum. Positive momentum is something that you can control, you know, from morning rituals, working out, music, you know, studying your craft. It'll give you that positive momentum you need. Like, fuck yeah, now I know how to do it. This meeting right here should install some positive momentum for the day. And then there's negative momentum. Negative momentum happens where, you know, you go through a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week with no sale. You keep getting no, 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 no. Or you keep getting leads that don't qualify, no benefit, no benefit, no benefit. And all that adds up to negative momentum. Then you start thinking like, fuck this place, fuck these leads, god damn it, it's my manager, god damn it, it's traffic, this fucking coffee, they don't have no fucking free beer here. You know what I mean? It's shit like that you just start telling yourself, and then that creates the negative momentum. Well, the problem with that is that when you go into a lead, it starts coming off that way, that you're frustrated that they don't have free beer in the break room. You're frustrated that your SM didn't give you the 1.5 no closer, you know, exception. You're frustrated because you haven't had a week, and so emotion plays a role. Now, the reason why I want to bring this up is because it does take practice, and it does take, you know, some sort of discipline to kind of flip your game on a moment's notice, right? So you get a call. It's very important that you don't bring your fucking baggage from your day before, your month before, or your pipeline now into that conversation.